Good morning. I'm Linda Reinstein, the co-founder and president of the Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization, ADAO. We're an independent nonprofit dedicated to eliminating asbestos-caused diseases. I am so honored to join you today as we talk about banning asbestos, the health implications, what's happening in the U.S. and globally. I'm delighted and honored to have the opportunity today to join you by sharing some of the facts and stats about asbestos in the United States, Pakistan, and the world. I'd like to begin by congratulating the Ahmed family. What an inspirational moment to all come together today in Karachi for the first Ban Asbestos Conference. Look around you today. You're surrounded by dignitaries, experts, and officials, all coming together to confirm and share the facts that asbestos is a human carcinogen and there's no safe level of exposure. Since 2011, I've had the pleasure to work with the Ahmad family and Mazab most closely. Although we're separated by about 8,000 miles from Los Angeles to Karachi, we've been able to connect and share through Skype and social media. It's an incredible opportunity to watch this family struggle as they search for truth and justice. Beginning from their home and their kitchen table, they're now in the Supreme Court and have organized this first Ban Asbestos Conference. Like the Ahmad family, storytelling is very powerful, so I'd like to take a few seconds and tell you a bit about mine, but not for sympathy, but so you can better understand my work and reasons. In 2003, my husband was diagnosed with mesothelioma, and like so many of you here today, I had never heard of that cancer, couldn't pronounce it, and soon found out there was no cure. Alan fought a courageous 3-year battle. With my daughter, who was just 13 at the time, we stood over Alan as he took his last breaths and died from a preventable asbestos-caused disease. And our story, although it's unique, it's actually very common. At the time of Alan's diagnosis, I had never heard of mesothelioma. I couldn't pronounce it, and I soon found out there wasn't a cure. And like most Americans, I too thought asbestos had been banned, but I was wrong, deadly wrong. In 2004, fueled by my intense grief and anger, I co-founded the Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization. And I knew that we had to do something. We had to raise awareness, increase education, and work to prevent this disease. Asbestos was once considered a magic mineral. It's strong, it's durable, heat-resistant, and very inexpensive. Well, it's anything but a magic mineral. It's a killer fiber. And if you look at this slide, you can actually see 20,000 asbestos fibers under President Lincoln's nose compared to grains of rice and human hair. These are microscopic fibers, can be actually 700 times smaller than human hair. The World Health Organization, International Labor Organization, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the EPA, and others all agree asbestos is a carcinogen and there's no safe level of exposure. All forms of asbestos can cause mesothelioma and other cancers like laryngeal, esophageal, ovarian, of course lung, and also non-malignant lung diseases. History is a great teacher to those who listen. And in the early 70s, there was a lot of policy that moved to prevent exposure through legislation and regulations. We've known for 100 years that asbestos causes diseases. But I'm sad to tell you in the last 40 years, we have stalled. We have catastrophically stalled and compromised public health. It seems so simple. There are 2 ways to end asbestos-caused diseases: prevention and a cure. The pro-asbestos industry have been peddling their asbestos for decades, and they're responsible for the largest man-made disaster ever. From 2000 to 2010, there were 43,351 Americans that died from just mesothelioma and asbestosis, 2 of the asbestos-caused diseases. And due to the long latency period, they're frequently misdiagnosed and underreported. Most mesothelioma patients die within 6 to 12 months of diagnosis. I'm embarrassed to tell you that the United States hasn't banned asbestos. And worse yet, we continue to import this deadly fiber into our country to meet so-called manufacturing needs. We have a toxic mess to clean up. For the last 110 years, the United States has consumed more than 31 million tons of asbestos. 31 million tons of asbestos. In 2009, the Center for Public Integrity published a great analysis of the asbestos industry entitled Dangers in the Dust, Exporting an Epidemic. It talked all about the asbestos toxic trade, and it's a lot like the tobacco industry. It's hard to believe that since the 1980s, the asbestos industry has spent more than $100 million lobbying to use asbestos. The asbestos toxic trade cycle continues. Mining, manufacturing, and of course commerce. But I want to ask each of you today, do you know where asbestos is in your home, in your office, or in your workplace? Most people remain uninformed and at risk. Each year, an estimated 2 million metric tons of asbestos is produced. Russia remains the largest producer in the world. And through public pressure, Canada stopped mining asbestos in 2011. But in the following slides, you'll see proof that chrysotile from the Canadian Jeffrey mine has made its way to Pakistan. In 2011, the U.S. Geological Survey reported that these top 10 countries, China, India, Russia, Brazil, Kazakhstan, Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and the Ukraine, are the top asbestos users in the world, accounting for 94% of the global use. As you can see by the data, Pakistan is surrounded by some of the biggest asbestos producers and users in the world. From 2003 to 2011, Pakistan has consumed an estimated 76,000 metric tons. Within Asia and the Middle East, nearly 13 million tons have been consumed. 13 million tons in just a short period of time. It's hard to believe what the Chrysotile Association is up to, but they have stated that 90% of the world's production of chrysotile is used in manufacturing cement in the form of pipes, sheets, and shingles. Well, it's no wonder when you look at this slide that the Asbestos Cement Product Manufacturers Association hosted a lavish international conference in New Delhi just a few months ago, promoting their propaganda, denying the dangers, and campaigning for more use. Although asbestos toxic trade is a global problem, for the purpose of my speech today, I want to focus on Dadex Eternit in Pakistan. Headquartered in the city of Karachi, where there's nearly 10 million residents, Dadex has 3 factories near Lahore and Hyderabad, and also obviously here in Karachi. On this map, you can see the red circle surrounds the very large factory in Karachi. They proudly state Dadex has been manufacturing chrysotile cement pipe for over 45 years in Pakistan. And they say it's durable and versatile, and they have a wide range of applications. They've been making cement pipes for your water system, distribution, buildings, and sewer for over 45 years. Individuals are exposed to asbestos in 3 ways: consumer, environmental, and occupational. I want to touch on all 3 of those, and I'm going to use some of the local examples here today so you can see what's happening within your country. Let's first talk about consumer exposure. Asbestos-contaminated products can be found on store shelves, such as cement pipes, roofing materials, insulation, textiles, gaskets, and even friction products. These products used in structures, cars, and ships and rails are just a few to name, and consumers are at risk. Occupational exposure happens during repairs, renovation, construction, and sadly, after disasters. When these products containing asbestos release fibers into the air, they create a carcinogenic dust. And a recent study estimated the factory dumping near Gadaptown exposed over 2 million residents to asbestos. Occupational exposure is more common and recorded. Workers exposed to microscopic airborne fibers during the mining, milling, and maintenance of contaminated asbestos products are often exposed. Between 1995 and 2003, there were 601 cases of mesothelioma diagnosed in the KPK province here in Pakistan. Well, asbestos is responsible for half of the occupational cancers. And the World Health Organization has been very proactive. They released this statement in 2006 that the most efficient way to eliminate asbestos-caused diseases are by stop using all types of asbestos. Each year, 107,000 people die from these preventable diseases, and exposure continues. Although the fight against asbestos may seem daunting, we're actually making huge progress. And there's a resource I want to share with you today. It's called the Toolkit for the Elimination of Asbestos-Related Diseases. This is a collection of nearly 200 fact sheets with information about asbestos exposure, risk identification, talks about legislation and regulations. There's also diagnostic tools, and most importantly, there's even risk communication. It's an excellent resource for each of you to become familiar with. I want to personally applaud the National Assembly's Standing Committee on Human Resource Development here in Pakistan. In November of last year, they actually issued a statement, and they recommended a complete ban on the import and use of dangerous chemical asbestos in 22 industries of the country to safeguard the health of workers. That's a very powerful statement in your country. Global Asbestos Awareness Week will begin in just a few months. During April 1st to the 7th, we come together as a community to raise awareness and action to prevent exposure to eliminate disease, and invite all of you to become familiar with this week and join our global efforts. The Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization is looking forward to welcoming Mazab to our 10th annual conference in Washington, D.C., where 30 experts from 10 countries are going to gather as we talk about where knowledge and action unite. With the explosion of social media, it's become so easy and efficient to work together on education, advocacy, and community. And thanks to Mazab, I was able to join you today. You have renewed my hope, and I look forward to working with each of you in the coming months and years as we unite in a global mission to ban asbestos. But as Margaret Mead says, I want to close with this quote: "Never believe that a few caring people can't change the world, for indeed, that's all that ever have." Thank you for having me.